Look, you've actually been committed to adding certain names, Tesla being one of them. Why do that with the exposure to China?
Yeah, well, that's a great question. we were adding to it since the market peaked because it got clobbered, and it was actually below current levels. But that is an ongoing concern, though we own that stock for, and we talked about this after Cybercab, Robot Day in Southern California, but we own it for the energy business, and we own it as an AI play. So yes, the EVs matter, but I think it's analogous to Apple, early days when we were buying it, 2013, 2014. The iPhone was a means to the services business.
Really interesting to bring broader context you can still hold on to amid these day-to-day volatile moves. Nvidia, another one you've been adding to.
Yes.
Many have been quick to say exposure to China. However, some analysts are coming out now saying this is one of our favorite picks. They're actually pretty protected from the broader tariff impact. How are you looking at that name?
Yeah, and we know that Jensen Huang met with the president recently to try to get a carve out. We're looking at that as part of what we think, I was on the air on the day DeepSeek came out, which was another chaos. I seem to attract it, chaos that is. And what we thought was that it would increase the use cases and the availability of AI as an option. And we saw that in the fourth quarter earnings, even though they're backward looking. We heard from CEOs how broadly they're using it across sectors. And you heard today Spotify saying, we're not hiring anybody unless you can prove that their job can't be done by AI. So I think NVIDIA is obviously the core of that. Most of our investments have been on the software side. We shifted to software about 5-6 months ago. But we still like that name. It's much smaller holding than our major holding Broadcom, which we've called the poor man's NVIDIA. But we do like to add to it on weakness. And it gets these periods it has historically. Just like Tesla. If you've owned Tesla since the IPO, it's been in a bear market almost 50% of the time, yet it's up thousands of percent. So you just have to pick your spots. Be sure to trim in these more volatile names when they run up, and that's what we did last summer, and then we're adding back in.
Hello, Nancy. It's always great to have you back on the show. I don't think you attract chaos. I think you just invest in the areas that attract chaos. It's different. There's two names that you haven't discussed, and every time you come on the show, I always say you haven't discussed one in particular, which is Meta, but also Amazon. Caro brought up a really interesting point earlier, which is, Amazon has this dual mandate. It is a technology stock and it is a retail stock, depending on how you look at it, like a Walmart, or it's a cloud provider. Talk to me how you feel about them both.
So Amazon was in our 5 for 25 that I published on 12/31, and it's a member of our 12 Best Ideas portfolio, and then we own it in our growth strategy. So I love the name. I think it's a defensive technology name that you can be adding to in here, and we have done that. But I wrote my notes a couple days ago, and we've added to it since then. So I think it's an important name to own. Our poster child for our investing theme of old economy companies that have pivoted to the new technologies is Walmart. You saw them confirm their annual guidance, and then Andy Jassy came out today and said what Jamie Dimon said: we're cutting costs. We're not frantically cutting costs. We're going to our management teams and saying, where can we save money? That's a well-managed company. I think it's an all-weather stock. Meta we sold, as you know, and bought Spotify. And so I was beating myself up until I went and looked at the relative performance since we've done that. And we've done much better in Spotify, though I think Meta is a name you can easily own again and add to in this weaker environment. That said, the ad revenue for Amazon is projected to go down half as much as Meta's if this all continues. So I think Amazon's the better player from here, and that's where we've been putting our money to work. And then Spotify and Netflix are names that we think will hold up in kind of a low growth, potentially recessionary environment, though Goldman withdrew their recession forecast, so maybe we're just getting slow growth.
Nancy, how do you assess communication from policymakers over the course of the last 5 days?
It's been horrific, Ed. I've been at this for over 40 years. I have never seen a more botched policy rollout than this. And I think it did a lot of damage to the administration. I know yesterday, we got the declaration that this was intended all along, and you just don't understand the art of the deal. And then Bill Ackman came out and said, oh, this was executed perfectly by the president, which makes me think he was selling yesterday into the strength that's just speculation. But I think it's been horrible. And you're seeing more and more of Scott Bessent and Kevin Hassett, and I think that will benefit the administration, though their message has been imperfect as well. It makes no sense from an economic standpoint. Now, 10% tariff would kind of act like a flat tax, and it would stop distorting behavior. But right now, if you think about factory build, we're up last 3 years, it has exploded, and it continued into the first 2 months of this year. We're now hearing new factories being put on hold. That's what happens when you distort policy.
How do your clients feel about it? How are they about remaining committed to funds exposed to equities?
So we've spent a lot of time doing webinars with our clients since the market peaked because there was already, a sharp correction going on.
Yeah, this whole DeepSeek was actually the Mag 7 problem, not MAGA.
Right.
Do you agree with Bessent?
Oh, no, I thought that was also ridiculous. I'm sorry. I thought that was when it started, though, the sort of franticness. But then we got a rally. No, of course not. I think that's where these guys are losing credibility, because those of us that do this for a living look at it and go, no, that's not, in fact, what it...
Bessent used to do it for a living.
I know. Isn't that interesting? Yeah, and took a very hard stance on many issues. But no, but when you go to an administration, your job is to be an advocate for the policy projected by the administration, which is why I will never be in politics. But our clients are pretty measured. I got calls yesterday, should I add more money? And it was like, no, let's wait. This is not done. But mostly we've seen flows in.